Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks everyone for joining us today. It's great to be back together again. My name is Blair Marvin. I'm the Vice President of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce, and we are pleased to have Daniel Evans with the Augusta Housing and Community Development and James Heffner of First Community Bank with us to present today. This webinar is our 18th in our series. This is part of our Achieving More Together Today initiative, where we do Tuesday and Thursday webinars at 3 o'clock, along with daily email communications and social posts to keep our members and the business community at large informed, engaged, and connected to one another. So we are striving to continually be that resource for you as we navigate these unprecedented times and look forward to recovery and resiliency moving forward to the future. So if you've not seen any of the past webinars or communications for that matter, we do house them on our website, augustametrochamber.com. Feel free to check out any of the past recordings, any of the resources and communications that have been disseminated this far, and look forward to receiving tomorrow via email a recording of this webinar for you to share with those you think might enjoy it, or just if you'd like to reference it again for the future. And we hope that you will make plans to join us next week for our next webinar. But at this time, I would like to turn it over to Daniel Evans, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his work with the Augusta Housing and Community Development, and most importantly, present on the city's COVID-19 Small Business Relief Plan. Thanks so much, Daniel and James, and I'm turning it over.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, guys. Again, as was mentioned, I'm a member of the City of Augusta's Housing and Community Development Department. We're the wing of your local government that works directly with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to provide services related to housing, economic development, homelessness, and a variety of other things in our community that are funded under that federal grant program. James is here as a wonderful supporter of the work that we've done, especially over the last 18 to 24 months to try and up Augusta's investment in our local small businesses. So we really appreciate not just his presence joining me today on the call. He's been a longtime supporter of several different efforts that our department has taken on behalf of the commission. So Mr. Heffner, say thank you, and I'll turn it over to you in a second to get through some of the basics here of what we're discussing today. So again, on behalf of the Augusta Commission, the Mayor of the City of Augusta, as well as the City Administrator, Housing and Community Development has been instructed to put forth a small business relief program in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The goal of this program is to help keep our locally owned small businesses open and to retain and hopefully create a few new jobs. This program, at the broadest description, is a forgivable loan program that is meant to be in response to businesses that are at risk of closing or laying off employees as a result of social distancing policies that were put into place over the last 60+ days in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So while this program is being described as a loan program, as it is a adjusted component of our normal economic development program, it is essentially a small business grant. So for locally owned small businesses that are that have 10 or fewer employees and do less than $500,000 in revenue, we're making available the opportunity to apply for assistance up to $15,000 that can be used to working capital to pay wages for employees, for leasing costs, insurance, and other utility expenses and operating costs that go along with maintaining your business during these trying times. The basic structure of an awarded application would be in the form of, as I said, a small business loan, that the payment upon the loan would be your ability to show evidence that you have created or retained a job at your business for someone who is considered to be low or moderate income. And we can certainly give you the details on what that means, but generally speaking, that just means a household that exists at 80% of the area median income or below. And it doesn't have to be a fixed person. Again, it can just be a position within your firm that you were able to either help them save that job, or in some instances, we see businesses able to respond to the conditions that are in front of them and create new positions. So as long as either a created or retained job is made available to that eligible person, Housing and Community Development will essentially abate 20% of the loan every year for a 5-year period. We'll just stay in touch with you over those 5 years to make sure you've maintained at least one job for one eligible household period. And then after the year 5 anniversary, your entire loan will be forgiven in the form of a grant. So again, for locally owned small businesses, we just need them to be able to demonstrate an economic loss that resulted directly from the COVID-19 crisis. And through the narrative of the application, you'll be able to provide an opportunity for your firm to explain how the conditions impacted you, where you saw losses either in your ability to retain employees or generate new revenues. Again, the plan that your ability to receive this funding will let you either create or retain that job as we move forward coming out of some of the social distancing restrictions. Just to let you know where we are in the process with this, those of you who may have seen some news stories about this saw that our local commission at their most recent meeting gave approval to the guidelines and the structure of this program and provided our office the instruction to reach out to the Department of Housing and Urban Development office in Atlanta for some guidance to make sure that this program was as sound as it needed to be and was able to meet the need where it existed within our small business community. We have fortunately received that assurance back from the federal government. And so we anticipate as soon as this coming commission meeting on June 2nd, receiving their approval to move forward and produce an actual launch date and provide a timeline to the community for when these applications will be made available so that businesses can begin to apply. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what process will look like for applications. As I mentioned briefly earlier, we're at a funding cap on this at $15,000, and we will be accepting applications in phases. We will run each one of these application phases for 5 days at a time, so that'll allow hopefully enough opportunity for folks to receive word through various social networking advertisements on the subject about the opportunity to apply, but also for members of our loan committee, we want to give them an opportunity to absorb the applications that are coming in a timely manner and give careful consideration to the statements of need that are being presented to them so they can give a thoughtful response and review of these applications. The application will include a copy of the scoring rubric that James and his peers will be using to review these applications for you. It is a 110-point scale. It has 2 5-point bonus opportunities associated to its normal 100-point scale. And we look to fund that meet basic eligibility that is described in the application of being an Augusta Richmond County business, not having any arrears with the city of Augusta in terms of liens and taxes, and again, being able to show some demonstrated need. So every business that meets those thresholds will be put in front of our loan committee and they will score those applications. And funding recommendations will be made by that loan committee to the local commission based on the scores that will be available included in the application. So at this point, I think if James would like to chime in a little bit and just speak to his perspective from the review committee, that may give you an idea of what we're looking for and kind of what to expect when these applications become available.
Well, Daniel, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be before the group today. And Blair, and on behalf of the Chamber, thank you for the opportunity to be able to talk a little bit about what we believe is going to be an opportunity for us to be able to really support small businesses and most importantly, allow them to be able to continue to keep their doors open and retain some of their best and brightest talent. We are a small committee of 6 to 7 that will be reviewing these applications. And the first step is just to make sure that each application, of course, is met the eligibility criteria. But once that has been met, it'll be put into our hands to begin to review. And the primary thing that we will be looking for is the narrative, as Daniel had indicated, which is going to be the crux of our ability to truly be able to sort through the need and the impact, as our goal is to try to make the highest and best use of these funds for the impact back to the community, most specifically to the small business owner. So we're excited about the ability to partner with the Housing and Development Department, but most importantly, we're excited about being able to help support those folks in the community that, you know, for some, this is their dream. For others, this is a second or a third generation business. And for others, this is just the opportunity to do something that they've always wanted to do, but now they put their best foot forward. And, you know, it's unfortunate that, you know, this pandemic has taken shape the way that it has, but anything that we can do to help support while this is happening, help people get back on their feet, keep doors open, that's exactly what we want to do. So Daniel, thank you. And, you know, by all means, I'll pass it back to you.
Sure. Thank you, James. It's a wonderful perspective, and we're happy to have James and some other members of our local business community participating in this process with us, both from the banking perspective as well as Economic Development Authority, Tax Commissioner's Office, HCD's own Citizen Advisory Committee, as well as the Chamber of Commerce itself. So it's a great opportunity to have diverse feedback, and it's an opportunity for us as a city government to engage with local small business owners in a way that we hope to be able to provide some long-term and ongoing support, not just meeting this immediate need, but also over the long term. So I did happen just to see some questions come in, and they all, as they often do with a lot of our grant programs, tie back around to that income piece. And again, there's a very good explanation in the guidelines that you'll see when these are officially released publicly that'll explain this visually in a way that my verbal response may not get to you the same way. But again, our core competency or our core requirement of folks who receive funds under this grant program is to be able to create or retain a job for a person who is considered to be low and moderate income. So the federal government looks at that by taking a household's gross income and measuring that as a comparison to the local median income. So the median income for Augusta, Georgia is about $62,000. That then scales based on household size up and down. And we're looking at, so for a one-person household, that would be someone that earns at or below around $32,000 or something like that. But again, we have a chart that visually demonstrates this, but the employee that you report on, if you're awarded funds under this grant, whichever employee or position in your firm that is a person who must be considered low and moderate income by federal guidelines, which is, again, their household being at or below 80% of our area median income, depending on their household size. The second question I did see, not to jump out too far, guys, is there was a question about sole proprietorship, and that's a great question. So business owners are eligible to count in the job creation or retention component so long as they meet that income requirement. So if the household of the business owner exists at or below 80% of the area median income, then they would also be eligible to be counted for that employment creation or retention component. Okay. So again, I'll just reiterate that we're going to work closely with our friends here at the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that as soon as commission approval is given for a launch date for us to put these applications on the street, hopefully within the next 2 weeks at the end, we'll make sure to get information back out through this channel as well as through our normal social media channel. So if you want to make sure you see all the live and iterative updates that we provide via social media, please follow us at Grow Augusta on Facebook. That's going to be the quickest way. We'll make sure that we keep advertisements about the progression of the application period posted there. Throughout the application period, we do anticipate that folks will have questions, and we'll provide these instructions in the guidelines that are with the application, but we would encourage them to reach out to HCD principally, and we can either connect them with a partner that can best answer the question for them, or if it is simply a question about the structure of the application, our staff here will may be able to help them as well. Okay.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, both Daniel and James. We really appreciate your time. And I know there may be more questions, but we encourage our folks here that are joining us today to reach out, as you indicated. So along with the webinar recording, we'll be sharing both James and Daniel's contact information. Of course, you could reach out to Sarah or I at the Chamber if you have further questions, but we will definitely provide the information in order for you to reach out directly. Just looking at this one last question that was received. If you received the PPP, can business apply for this?
Yes, so as a baseline answer without knowing any of the other details, the PPP, since it was funded from a different component of the federal government, does not immediately make you ineligible to apply for this. We would look to work with you if your application was selected to be funded to make sure we don't duplicate any expenses. The federal government never wants you to pay for the same bill twice, right? So that's something that as we went from application to agreement with a funded firm, we would be able to carve that out in a way that made sure they stayed in compliance with the terms of their payroll protection loan, but also in compliance with our requirements from HUD as well.
Great, thank you. Well, thanks again, guys, and we hope to see all of our members and business community next week. Everyone have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, James.
You bet.